I prophesy many things that come to pass. God is going to put a judgment on the world. He's mad. I'm sorry it's going to happen. He's not going to destroy the whole world. But every living thing will perish, and it'll be maybe another 1,000,000 years before a new life begins again. Grandmother Earth will be alone. She's going to rest. All because of white man's wickedness. You're going to fall and fall hard. You're going to be crying and wailing. You'll realize you can't get away with destroying God's world. Don't think you can get away with it. God's going to wipe the wickedness from the earth. You can see his signs out on the west coast. Mount St. Helens volcano, that's a sign. And there's going to be earthquakes. Maybe half of California and half of Washington and Oregon will go into the water. The same in the east and in the south. They're going to have volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes.
Matthew stood before us, waving his arms like two great eagle wings, tossing up tempests below.
It's God giving signs to the white man, punishing him for not paying his debt to the Indian people, for destroying the land with his greed. It will get worse until you pay us what you owe us, what you promised us, until you give us what is ours. You are going to learn the most important lesson, that God is the most powerful thing there is. We Indians aren't afraid to die. We've got a place to go, a better place, so we don't care. We're ready. We just want you to know. Maybe you can change. Maybe you can stop what's coming. There's not much time. It's going to happen. Take it from me. Tell them Noble Red Man said so.
Matthew smiles again, and suddenly light seems to fill the room. The brimstone settles. He laughs.
Don't worry. You guys still got time to do what you're doing. God's making use of you. He's sending you out to reveal the life of the Indian people. That's a good thing. You should be grateful. He's found a use for you.
He seems pleased when we ask for his blessing.
Put your camera on that chair, and you put your pen beside it. I'll put a blessing on them so you don't do any harm with them to the Indian people.
For several minutes, holding his hands over the camera and pen, he prays in the Lakota language. At one point he stops speaking and holds his head up as if listening. Standing there beside him as he prays, we can feel the Spirit flowing through us like a wind.
I told God what you're doing. He tells me you're going to have a good journey. No harm will come to the Indian people from what you're doing, and no harm will come to you while you're doing it. I asked him to bless these two men and take care of them.
Since our conversations in 1983, Matthew King, Chief Noble Red Man, has gone on to his Creator. His passing brings to mind these words he spoke to us back then.
You know, last night I had a dream of my wife for the first time since she passed away 4 years ago. She came to me last night and she told me it's very peaceful up there. It's the best place, far from the wicked world. We lead a good life up here, she said. She wanted me to hurry up and come on up there. So I told her, wait a minute. I got a lot of things to do yet in the world. You better wait a little longer, then I'll be there.
Corbett Sundown, Seneca. I was looking forward to seeing Chief Corbett Sundown again as we drove up to the Tonawanda Indian Reservation in upstate New York, an hour's drive from Buffalo. 3 years had passed since our last visit in 1986. At that time he'd been recuperating from 3 heart attacks over the previous year and a half. Yet he'd seemed not only alert but feisty and energetic as ever. Here was a man intimately in tune with the Creator, a man who had devoted most of his 80 years to helping his people without thought of recompense. It was simply his duty, and nothing could come in the way of that. Though the heart attacks had forced him to give up his official role as spokesman for the spiritual fire of the traditional Six Nations Iroquois, he had continued to function as a leader in longhouse ceremonies and as a font of wisdom, both practical and spiritual, for those who came to his door. As Harvey and I drove up to his house at Tonawanda, we saw someone sitting in a parked car in the front driveway. It was Corbett. We walked over to shake his hand, which he extended uncertainly. It was trembling slightly. He didn't remember us at first, but gradually a smile of recognition, weak but genuine, spread across his face. Yet his voice could hardly be heard, a halting whisper, scratchy as an antique phonograph record. We could barely make out the words.
I like to sit out here in the car. Can't walk much anymore. Can't do nothing anymore. Can't...
The words just faded out. His eyes drifted away from us, absorbed in some inner vision. After a minute or so, he regathered enough strength to go on.
I sit out here and I watch things that move. Yesterday I saw 14 dogs in the morning. No one else saw them. I think I know who they are.
Who are they? I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes closed. We thought he might have fallen asleep, but he was only looking deep inside himself, trying to find the words, trying to get them out from his mind to his tongue. He didn't mention the dogs again.
Things come into me. The falling leaves, the stars. I watch them move. They come into me.
Once again he lapsed into seeming sleep for a couple of minutes. Then he opened his eyes again.
I'm 80 years old now. I've been a chief for 50 years.
The words trailed off. We helped him out of the car and into the house, where two lovely ladies, Edna Parker, 85, and Betsy Carpenter, 96, tend to his care. He sat down at the cluttered kitchen table where we'd had so many wonderful conversations in the past. But there would be no conversation this day. Every so often his eyes brightened as if with some thought, and his lips would begin to move, but only a hoarse sigh came out. I realized that whatever Corbett had to say to us had already been said. There would be no more. He began slowly to clench and unclench his hands, holding them out in front of him and squinting at them as if they were miles away.
Can't feel my hands.
Something came into me, a sudden impulse. I walked over to him and took his two hands in mine. They were cool, dry, like cracked leather. They felt barely alive. Like a mother rubbing her child's frozen hands, I pressed and squeezed and rubbed them gently, praying that some of the life and warmth might flow from my hands into his. These are powerful hands, Corbett, I told him. These are hands that have led their people well. Corbett's eyes welled with tears. I could not restrain my own. His lips moved silently, trying to deliver the words so far back in his mind. Only a sound like faint static came out. Corbett, I asked, may I photograph your hands? With Edna's and Betsy's help, we took him back out of doors into the light. He sat in a lawn chair. For 10 minutes, focusing through my tears, I photographed those magnificent hands. Somehow they had ceased trembling. Their strength, no, call it power, is something I will never forget. When I'd finished, I took them once more in mine. Corbett sat there looking up at me. His tears had dried, and his quiet smile said everything words could not. Words? We had come for the gift of his words. There was so much we wanted to hear, so much he could tell us. But words were something irrelevant now. A deeper communication was taking place. He had given us the blessing of his presence, and no greater gift can be imagined. Harriet Starleaf Gums, Shinnecock. Tucked away just west of the posh Hamptons, the Shinnecock Indian Reservation, hardly noticeable from the road, occupies one of the last pieces of unspoiled shoreside real estate on eastern Long Island. Only the quick-glancing tourist sees the hand-lettered sign on a one-story wooden building, Shinnecock Indian Outpost and Starleaf's Antique Bottle Shop. Starleaf is the Indian name of Harriet Gums, a youngish elder of her people, a tribal spokeswoman, teacher, and historian.
We were here for thousands and thousands of years before the first white settlers arrived in 1640.
She tells us as we stroll the rock and shell-strewn shore of Shinnecock Bay on a chilly, somberly beautiful early December afternoon. From this same shore came the purple-shelled clam called the quahog, from which the Indians of the Northeast once made the purple beads for their sacred wampum.
Our ancestors called this place Siwanhaki, or Shell Heaven. Back then, the land was ours for miles around. Now we have only these 400 acres. They've taken all the rest. Some developers recently offered us millions to relocate, but we refused. This land is ours forever, and we're not leaving.
She retells a story told to her by great-grandmother Elizabeth Adams, who lived to be over 100 years old.
A beautiful dove flew over the earth and dropped a bit of blood from its wounded wing onto Mother Nature's warm breast. Many Indians believed this might be so, for the trees sang softly and their branches swayed gracefully up and down in the gentle winds, fanning the spot where the blood had landed. A bit of sunshine, a drop of rain, a puff of life from the Great Spirit as he gently breathed upon that spot created the Native Americans. They were well-formed and agile, copper-colored and proud. Today, we need a revolution to survive. So much has been taken and so much has been lost. We hardly know our own language or culture anymore. That was taken from us along with the land and, yes, even the sea and the streams. When I was a girl, the water was so clean and clear we bathed and washed our clothes in it. Now there's so much pollution, no one wants to set foot in it. What a difference between white man's way and the Indian way. We lived here since time began, and the only waste we left behind was the oyster shell middens on the shore. But what will future archaeologists find when they unearth today's civilization? Generations to come will look back and see how 20th century Americans were the garbage makers, the poison producers, the carcinogen creators. In exchange for all he's taken from us, all white man gives us back is welfare, and even for that little bit he forces our men to leave their homes so their children can get food to eat. That's rape. Raping someone's way of life, raping someone's culture and heritage, raping the land and raping the sea. What kind of legacy is that? We reject it. We want no part of it.
Starleaf arranges a traditional feast on the beach, supervised by her son, Phil Brown, a professional chef. 2 days are spent gathering and preparing the victuals, a veritable cornucopia of fresh-caught foods from the bay and its shore, steamed clams and crabs, oysters raw and grilled, baked mussels, stuffed scallops, thick clam chowder, exquisite deep-baked bluefish, plus tidbits of rabbit, squirrel, duck, and venison. For appetizers, we dig fresh clams from the wet sand, pry them open, and simply pop them into our mouths.
You don't need lemon or hot sauce. They're perfect the way they are, the way the Creator made them. There used to be so many clams on the beach, you only had to kick the sand to find them. You could dig them up with your toes. Now they're scarce. Commercial clammers rake the shore right up to the tide line. When I was a girl, the sand was pearly white. Now it's covered with that green algae from pollution, they say. The pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers run down from the potato fields. Still, isn't it beautiful? This is where the Creator intended us to live.
After hours of preparation, Phil announces that the feast is ready, and we gather around the pit fire on the beach at dusk. The air is a symphony of savors.
But first, let's join hands and pray.
For this grand occasion, she's donned a traditional Indian costume of skins, an embroidered shawl, and elegant beadwork. She exudes a gentle majesty and unpretentious spirituality. As we raise our joined hands in the air and lift our faces to the sky, she intones.
We give thanks to the Creator for these fruits of the sea. We ask His blessings on the food that we eat and on all the generations that follow us down to the 7th generation. May the world we leave them be a better one than was left to us.
Eddie Benton Benai, Ojibwe. We seek out this extraordinary educator one Monday morning in 1984 at the Red Schoolhouse, his alternative Indian school in St. Paul, housed in a turn-of-the-century brick building that was formerly a Roman Catholic parochial school. Over the main door, the original lintel reads, "Suffer ye the little children to come unto me." Here each Monday morning the week begins with a prayer. Already the sacred water drum, the little boy as the Ojibwe lovingly call him, is beating within, pounding out an ancient rhythm that beats directly on the heart. The whole building is a beating heart at this moment. We are ushered into a large open classroom and stand at the edge of several concentric circles of children and teachers, some seated, some standing, some sitting cross-legged on the floor. At the center of the room, 3 teenage boys and a man, Eddie Benton Benai himself, are flailing away at the drum, and the voice of the little boy fills the universe. Here the Creator is being honored and all else ceases. The sacred fire, a small version of it, has been lit in a ceremonial vessel at the center of the first-floor classroom. The aromas of sage and sweetgrass are dazzlingly pungent. The smoke from the fire and tobacco offerings momentarily grows thick, and the large school windows are thrown open. Fingers of smoke rush outward, carrying the prayers up to the Creator, who must be listening hard, his ear pressed close to the open windows of his beloved red schoolhouse. Still in the robust vigor of middle life, yet nonetheless an authentic wisdom keeper, Eddie Benton Benai is a founder of the American Indian movement and of the Red Schoolhouse. He's also a Midewiwin priest, philosopher, poet, and one-time coach of the Red Schoolhouse football team. His life's mission is simple, the education of his people. After leaving the Red Schoolhouse, he has continued as a professional educational consultant and also serves as the Grand Chief of the Three Fires Society.
We have to pick up things our people have left along the trail. Everything wasn't passed down. Too many of our people died too quick back then. They didn't have time to pass it all down. So we Indians today have to go back and find the things that got left along the trail. It's up to us to go back and pick them up. We have to educate ourselves to know who we are. That's what I mean when I say, teach the children. The grandfathers and the grandmothers are in the children. If we educate them right, our children tomorrow will be wiser than we are today. They're the grandfathers and grandmothers of tomorrow. And that's what the Red Schoolhouse is all about. My life belongs to my people. That makes me a very busy man. I may not always have the time to look after you or talk to you, but you guys hang around if you'd like. Maybe you'll learn something. There's only one price I ask you to pay. And I'm sorry, but it's a very high one. I ask you to pay the price of attention. The spiritual heritage of Native American people is here. It has not been extinguished. I believe the spiritual fire still burns and is beckoning for America, indeed the world, to come closer, to listen, to learn, and to share in its warmth and comfort. I, as a spiritual Indian man, am convinced that it is time to reach out to my white brothers and sisters and to share with whomever wishes to partake of what we, the indigenous people of this land, still have. It is time that the buckskin curtain be drawn back. It is time. I know it. A renaissance is taking place among Native American peoples. This renaissance is not of a material nature. It is a spiritual renaissance, a retrieving and reviving of our original covenant with the Creator. We are reaffirming our relationship and stewardship with our Mother the Earth. While we are inspired and directed to do this for our children and ourselves, we also realize that many, not all of our elders have fallen asleep, forgotten, or have never known our rightful spiritual heritage. Therefore, it is up to those of us who have, in whatever measure, the teachings, philosophy, and traditions, including the rituals, to work for their revival and continuance. Personally, I'm sovereign. I'm not dependent on anybody. For 13 years, I was a high steel construction man. I did that very well, and I loved it. It satisfied something in my ego and my manhood. But then, after I'd put up hundreds of towers and skyscrapers and bridges, I looked around and saw that no skyscrapers were being built on the reservation. I said, "Hey, this ain't doing my people any good." So I climbed down off the iron and picked up the flag of self-determination. Then I had to learn how to make my family sovereign, how to make my people sovereign. Sovereignty is something that goes in ever-widening circles, beginning with yourself. In order for Indian people to attain sovereignty, each of us has to be sovereign in ourselves. If a person can go out into the stream and fish for their needs, if they can do whatever they have to do to provide for those who are dependent on them, then that person is sovereign. Sovereignty isn't something someone gives you. You can't give us our sovereignty. Sovereignty isn't a privilege someone gives you. It's a responsibility you carry inside yourself. In order for my people to achieve sovereignty, each man and woman among us has to be sovereign. Sovereignty begins with yourself. I'm a full-blood Indian man. My name is Bodway Weedun. It means messenger, and is derived from the thunder beings. I was born in a wigwam by natural childbirth and raised in total Ojibwe traditional manner. I was given many of the old traditional and spiritual teachings and rituals pure firsthand. I began fasting at age 5 and fasted at ages 7, 9, 11, and 13. I didn't begin to speak English until I was 10. I was chosen, prepared, and taught to be a Midiwin teacher. Currently, I hold a 4th degree priesthood in the Midiwin Lodge of the Ojibwe people. The 4th degree is the priesthood level of our religious order and belief. I'm also a keeper and carrier of the sacred water drum and the pipe of everlasting prayer. But do not call me an elder. It is an honor I have yet to earn for my people. I am but a teacher and a believer. My mother was a healer, and so she had to move around the country a great deal, gathering roots and herbs and all the other things for her pharmacy. My father was a lumberjack, a trapper, a slave laborer, a railroad track laborer. I remember almost from the time I could walk, we would pick rutabagas and potatoes for a penny to a bag at a farmer's place. We had to walk maybe 10 miles to get there, worked all day, got our few pennies, then walked back home. My father would use the money to buy food for the family. The next morning we went out again to pick more rutabagas and potatoes. And that's how my family provided for us. By today's standards, it may seem a hard life, but I thought I had a wonderful home. It was warm, everyone there spoke to one another, and it was in our own language, the only language that was spoken there. Everyone in that wigwam loved each other. So I come from a very, very rich home, and I'm proud of it. I spent a good part of my life in the white world. I was forced to go to a BIA boarding school and also to a Catholic mission school. I don't know which one of those schools I remember more fondly. At the Catholic mission school, we were forced to sit in a room, all facing towards the front, and the good, kind, loving sister stood up there and taught whatever she was teaching us. I hardly ever understood. When it came time to answer questions, she would say, "Edward, stand up and tell me, who was the king of Spain in 1492? And I would stand up and say, "I don't know." Only I would say it in Ojibwe, not English, for which I was summarily snatched by the ear and marched up in front of the room and told to stretch out my hands, palms down, and the good, kind, loving sister would hit the backs of my hands 12 times with her yardstick. That was repeated almost daily. I never did learn who the hell the king of Spain was. Maybe I should have. Maybe my little finger would be straight now. One incident I remember rather well. Because I refused to speak English all the time, they decided to make me an altar boy. And I thought that was something, that I was really moving up in the world. The only problem, they said, was that I had to learn a language in order to be an altar boy, and the language was Latin. So I learned a little Latin. I didn't know what all those words meant, but with a little effort I could repeat them. To this day I remember all the actions that go with being an altar boy. One reason I wanted to be an altar boy was that every Sunday after Mass you got a bowl of Jell-O with whipped cream on top. Boy, was that good. It was the only good thing I ever got there. And then there was a BIA boarding school. I happened to go to a very enduring institution called the Pipestone Indian Training School. I'll never forget my first day there. We'd been riding on a school bus the better part of that day from Wisconsin to southwestern Minnesota, and we arrived at Pipestone around midnight. I thought for sure they'd feed us, but they didn't do that. They marched us all, boys in one direction and girls in the other, and the first stop was this little room that had 4 chairs in it. And there, everybody got their hair lopped off. I remember how I cried. My mother used to take care of my braids, and I remember when I left her early that day, she had tied an eagle plume in my hair. She said, "I want you to look nice when you get there." She also told me, "Always remember to take care of your hair. Braid it when you can, but for sure keep it clean, comb it, tie it back. But always remember, when you go out to pray, your hair must be in braids. And I want you to keep this eagle plume with you until we get back together." And that same night, they chopped my hair off. And I mean, they cut it right down to the skin. And there on the floor lay my pretty eagle plume and the braids that my mother had so carefully fixed and tied. That was the first atrocity I experienced at the BIA school. From that room, we were marched into a shower, a big, long, common shower. And some kind of substance was poured all over us to delouse us, they said. That was the second atrocity. Then all our clothes were taken away from us, and we were all dressed in blue coveralls. If we were wearing moccasins, they were taken away, and we were all put into government-issue black shoes. So that was my first day at the BIA boarding school, and I shall always remember that. I will let you guess which one of those boarding schools I have loved the best.
Vernon Cooper, Lumbee. Head west out of Lumberton, North Carolina, cross the Lumber River, and you enter the territory of the Lumbee, the largest Indian tribe east of the Mississippi and one of the least known. Lacking either a reservation or official federal recognition, some 35,000 Lumbee, formerly known as the Croatoan tribe, cling tenaciously to ancestral lands in rural Robeson County, which they share, at times uneasily, with 40,000 whites and 25,000 blacks. Historians theorize that the Lumbee's ancestors absorbed the missing white settlers of the famous Lost Colony founded by Sir Walter Raleigh on the Virginia coast in the 1580s. The only clue to the colonists' disappearance was the word Croatoan carved on a tree. When Europeans moved into North Carolina's deep interior in the 1700s, they found an English-speaking tribe of Indians, often fair-skinned and blue-eyed, who practiced their own form of Christianity. Apparently, having fled the encroaching white settlers on the Virginia and North Carolina coasts, the ancestors of today's Lumbee sought refuge in the dark, foreboding swamps along the Lumber River. Vernon Cooper, 84, on our first visit in 1989, is a direct link to those events of 4 centuries ago.
My grandmother passed the healing power on to me from her deathbed in 1917. She said this ability was a gift that had been given to our family for 400 years. She told me, "You will be the last one with that gift in our family. There will never be another one. Finish out the 400 years." When my daughter was born, I prayed the prophecy would be changed, that she would become a healer too, but it wasn't to be. There are a few others here who work with herbs. I passed on what I could, but the gift of healing with your hands, that can't be passed on. I only wish I could. There's nothing happens to a person that can't be cured if you get what it takes to do it. We come out of the earth, and there's something in the earth to cure everything. In the old days, before my time, it took only a single herb to cure a person. Now it takes a combination. Trouble is, You can't find most of the herbs and roots around here anymore. All those farm chemicals have killed them off. You've got to go up in the hills to find them, and I'm getting too old for that anymore. Everything I know I learned by listening and watching. Nowadays people learn out of books instead. Doctors study what man has learned. I pray to understand what man has forgotten. I don't fix a tonic until I'm sure what's wrong with a person. I don't make guesses. I have to be sure because medicine can do bad as well as good, and I don't want to hurt anybody. Whatever the Lord shows me, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe it takes some herbs. Maybe it takes some touching. But most of all, it takes faith. The gift my grandmother passed on is diagnosing and healing by touch, by laying on of hands. We call it rubbing. I rub people with my hands to find the sickness. I pray to the Lord for help. If the patient has faith, the fever will come right out, right into my hands. I can feel the heat in my fingers. Sometimes the skin peels right off my hands. I can feel the patient's pain like an electric shock. My veins swell up for days. Feel this lump in my hand? I got that from a man I treated. Came right out of his hand into mine. I asked the Lord to let me have it. It never went away. You got to be careful with these things. There's no heavier burden than being a healer. Sometimes I get real tired. I work all night, night after night, one patient after another. Maybe I get to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning. Then at 5 someone's knocking on my door and it starts all over. That's the way it was for years, though I'm slowing down now. People ask me why I don't take a vacation so I could get over being tired. But I tell them I don't want any vacation. If I got rested up, why I'd just start working even harder and get tired all over again. So I'd just as soon stay tired. I haven't got time for vacations. I've not finished my work in this world yet. Vacations would only delay my time of reaching that wondrous land I'm going to. It won't be long now, so I'm going to finish what the Lord put me here to do. Then when I go to that other place, I'll be able to rest and never be interrupted again. I can tell you I'm looking forward to that. I just wasn't cut out for the age we're living in. Everybody's hurting, but nobody's going anywhere. People aren't living, they're only existing. They're growing away from spiritual realities. These days people seek knowledge, not wisdom. Knowledge is of the past, wisdom is of the future. We're in an age now when people are slumbering. They think they're awake, yet they're really sleeping. But this is a dangerous age, the most dangerous in human history. People need to wake up. They can't hear God's voice if they're asleep. Heavy equipment and light-minded people have destroyed just about everything nature has provided. Well, we can't keep ruining the earth and poisoning it and think we can get away with it. Certain destruction is going to hit one of these days. We're on the verge of a change such as has never been before. God is going to intervene. I'm tired now. I've been feeling poorly lately. Haven't been able to gather any herbs since Thanksgiving last year. I've been even more tired than usual. Maybe I'll get that long-awaited rest pretty soon. Anyway, you come back another time if you like. I'm always glad to work with anyone looking for the betterment of the coming generation. But you fellows see you write it all down right. If you write it wrong, people believe it wrong.
Oren Lyons, Onondaga. A stern-faced Oren Lyons, faithkeeper of the Turtle Clan of the Onondaga Nation and spokesman for the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy, sits across a wooden table from us in his log cabin on the Onondaga Reservation, a few miles south of Syracuse, New York. Its night and the harsh light of a single kerosene lantern casts sharp shadows against the walls and beam ceiling.
I prefer no electricity. And no phones. That's important.
In one corner, shrouded in shadow, hangs an assemblage of ceremonial masks, faces turned to the wall.
We show their faces only during ceremonies, and we never allow photographs of our ceremonies, so don't even think of asking.
He gives us a long, hard look and shakes his head.
Why come to us? We're the toughest nut to crack. You think we turn our elders over to anyone who walks in the door?
He leans forward, elbows planted on the table. His eyes probe us.
We guard them like pure spring water. So what is it you guys want from the elders? Secrets? Mystery?
We explain that we want only to meet them and hear whatever they care to share with us, that we're not looking for secrets.
That's good, because I can tell you right now, there are no secrets. There's no mystery. There's only common sense.
He gets up, strides over to the cast iron stove, and warms his hands. Outside, a cold January wind is moaning, pelting the windows with dry, icy snow. We sit uneasily, sure he's about to send us packing into that bitter night. Still rubbing his hands, he sits down and faces us.
Common sense. I'll tell you guys a little bit about common sense. What law are you living under? United States government law? That's man's law. You break man's law and you pay a fine or go to jail, maybe. That's the way it is with man's law. You break it and you can still get around it. Maybe you won't get punished at all. Happens all the time. People figure they can get away with anything, and half the time they do. But they forget there's another law, the Creator's law. And we call it natural law. Natural law prevails everywhere, and it supersedes man's law. If you violate it, you get hit. There's no judge and jury, there are no lawyers or courts. You can't buy or dodge or beg your way out of it. If you violate this natural law, you're going to get hit, and get hit hard. One of the natural laws is that you've got to keep things pure, especially the water. Keeping the water pure is one of the first laws of life. If you destroy the water, you destroy life. And that's what I mean about common sense. Anybody can see that. All life on Mother Earth depends on the pure water. Yet we spill every kind of dirt and filth and poison into it. And that makes no common sense at all. Your legislature can pass a law saying it's okay, but it's not okay. Natural law doesn't care about your man's law. Natural law is going to hit you, and you can't get out of the way. You don't fool around with natural law and get away with it. If you kill the water, you kill the life that depends on it, your own included. That's natural law. It's also common sense. Another of the natural laws is that all life is equal. That's our philosophy. You have to respect life, all life, not just your own. The key word is respect. Unless you respect the earth, you destroy it. Unless you respect all life as much as your own life, you become a destroyer, a murderer. Man sometimes thinks he's been elevated to be the controller, the ruler, but he's not. He's only a part of the whole. Man's job is not to exploit, but to oversee, to be a steward. Man has responsibility, not power. In our way of life, in our government, with every decision we make, we always keep in mind the seventh generation to come. It's our job to see that the people coming ahead, the generations still unborn, have a world no worse than ours, and hopefully better. When we walk upon Mother Earth, we always plant our feet carefully, because we know the faces of our future generations are looking up at us from beneath the ground. We never forget them.
Oren slips off into the shadows of the cabin and returns with a beaded wampum belt about 4 inches wide and 1.5 feet long.
This is a replica of the two-row wampum, the basis of our sovereignty. It's the grandfather of all the treaties between our two peoples. We made it with the Dutch in the early 1600s. The 2 rows of purple beads represent the red man and the white man living side by side in peace and friendship forever. The white background is a river. On that river of life, you travel in your boat and we travel in our canoe. Each of us is responsible for our own government and religion and way of life. We don't interfere with each other. The rows are parallel. One is not bigger. We're equal. We don't call each other father or son. We call each other brother. That's the way it's supposed to be between us. for as long as the grass grows and the water flows and the sun shines. Those words come from this treaty. We still believe them, and we're waiting for the white man to live up to his side. Right now he's hogging the middle of the river and pushing us aside. But we remember how it's supposed to be, how we agreed in the beginning when you were weak and we were strong. White man seems to have forgotten. But we've got a long memory, and so has the Creator. Our ancestors told us that there will come a time in the future when some of our people will put one foot in a canoe and one in a boat. That's a very precarious position to be in. And they foretold a great wind would rise and would tear the canoe and the boat away from each other. Then those people that have one foot in the canoe and one in the boat are going to fall into the river, and no power on this side of the creation can save them. We are the Haudenosaunee. That means people of the Longhouse. We are made up of 6 nations, each one of us equal. Each of us is sovereign, and we come together in a confederacy. Our business is peace, not war. In issues of peace and war and other major matters, we sit together and make our decisions. There is no single authority. We do not vote. We must reach a decision that everyone agrees with, and we have a method by which we arrive at that decision. We have a central fire. Each side of the fire has one speaker, and he speaks on behalf of those he sits with. A problem is presented from what we call the well, and from there it goes to each of the sides for discussion. Each side agrees or disagrees among itself and sends its decision on the problem back to the well. There it is adjusted to conform with the decisions of the others. Then it's sent back out from the well again. This goes on until the issue is unanimously decided. This is a very old Indian-style government. It requires complete unity of decision, and it takes time, but the decisions, once made, are very firm. If there's a problem we can't seem to resolve, we reconsider it another time. If after a third time there's still no unanimous decision, then the Totadaho, or presiding chief, who comes from the Onondagas, the keepers of the central fire, will announce a compromise decision. But if the problem is still divisive, the Totadaho will say, we will not address it at all, because there's no problem that's important enough to cause divisions among the people. The peacemaker who founded our confederacy told us we must be of one mind. Those are good words to remember today, or any day. I do not see a delegation for the four-footed. I see no seat for the eagles. We forget and we consider ourselves superior. But we are, after all, a mere part of the creation. And we must consider to understand where we are. And we stand somewhere between the mountain and the ant, somewhere and only there as part and parcel of the creation.